Hey guys, Reece Deans here of the Deansy Boys Show, and I thought I'd give you a little special video considering that I haven't been releasing any videos recently for the last few weeks or so I figured I've been looking through some memories, some moments, and what would be best to tell a story. I figured I'd tell you an experience I had a few years ago where it sort of really scared me at the time, and I look back, was it a paranormal experience? Was it just silly moment that just happened? This experience to me has always stuck with me through years and years, and I just figured I thought I should tell this story. With that being said, guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel, to the Deansy Boys Show, and I promise I'll get some more videos out there for you to watch and enjoy. So right now, enjoy this video. So for this story, we're going to have to go back to 2013, somewhere in mid-2013, around about, I'd say May or June time. I was just coming to the end of my first year of sixth form, and me and a couple of friends, we were 16, 17 years of age, and we figured that because we looked older than we did, look back then, we decided to go out and have a couple of drinks and maybe try and sneak into a nightclub or something, just to have some fun and to have a good night. And we did this around about on a Friday, because I remember distinctively that the following day I had to be up for an away trip for a football match or something like that. I headed out around about half seven at night, and I met up with a couple of friends, and we went out to this area on the one end of Barry around Broad Street, and we were having a couple of drinks in the pub, and then we managed to get in. We shouldn't have done it, but we managed to get into a nightclub or two, even though we were 16 or 17 years of age, and we just had a good time and had a couple of drinks and celebrated. So around 2 a.m, I started to feel tired, and I started to lose interest in what was going on around me, and I wasn't drunk. I didn't have that much to drink, and I just felt that it was the right time for me to go home. So I told my friends I was leaving. Some of them were disappointed. One of them tried asking me to stay out, and then I would crash at his place, but I wasn't really up for it, because normally I would take up the offer, but for some reason, I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to know, so I just said goodbye to my mate and I headed off home. You got to understand where we were at this point. Now, most of the clubs and pubs in Barry, they're on one side of the town, and I lived on the other end. To get from one end of Barry to another, sometimes it's best just to get left a 10-minute journey ride in a taxi, just £8 just from, a 2.5 mile journey from one end of Barry to the other. And because it was, a 2.5 mile journey to get from point A to point B where I lived, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to waste some time, I'm going to try and sober up, I'm going to see if the fresh air would do me good. I just decided I'm going to take a nice walk, which I normally do anyway, most of the time. Even today, if I was out, I wouldn't get a taxi after a night out drinking, I just walk home. But on this particular night, and for the life of me, I just didn't know what to expect as soon as I got home. When I practically walked all the way from one end of Barry to the other, the journey itself, it wasn't an issue. Walking up roads and down roads, it was a bit of a mission, but I managed to get sobered up. I was thinking clearly, I was of sounder mind, and I was enjoying this walk until I got to about a few hundred feet away from my house. To understand where I was going and where my house was, there's this turning where you go through this turning of Pennerbryn Road, and on the right there's this pathway which cuts into the park, and where they have this basketball/football courtyard and a couple of swings and slides, and then all around it with a couple of trees, next to it is like a mini field. But beyond that mini field is an allotment where you have people grow their own vegetables, have their sheds and do whatever. But where I lived, it was like a nice little housing estate that was, the same age as me. That it hasn't really been there for long, at that time, 16 or 17 years. And there wouldn't be any animals out, considering that the mini field, it's not really habitable to any sort of species. You probably see the odd fox here or there, or maybe a hedgehog, but that was basically it. Most of that area was covered with houses. As I got to the end of the road, which I lead to a turn in, and keep in mind it was only a few hundred feet away from my house, all I could remember was, as I was about to turn, I heard a scream. And I stopped for a moment and I had to process what I just heard. Because as I stood there, it was coming from the directions where the park was. Now, like I said, there's nothing covering the pathway. You can easily, if you were to look at the pathway, you can easily see the park from where I was standing. You could see the football courtyard, you could see the swings, you can see the slides, you could see everything, and it was coming from that direction. There was no one there. The scream was very high pitch. It sounded as if a human couldn't make that. I mean, I've heard girls scream, and I even hear men screaming that high, and it wasn't as high as I heard it. But all I heard was a scream, and I thought, oh, I reacted to it a little bit, but it didn't. It startled me a little bit, but then I just gradually carried on walking. As I continued to walk down this road, trying to head to my house, the screams came back again. Now this time, it got even louder. And as I'm walking, I'm thinking to myself, what could possibly make this noise? I could not understand it whatsoever. And as I kept walking, the screams kept getting louder, and it sounded as if they were getting a lot closer. It was almost as if there was something moving in the fields that was coming to my direction. And the goosebumps are on the back of my neck. And I'm telling you now, this is no word of a lie. And I was petrified then at this time. And I'm very cautious. I'm very streetwise. I wouldn't say I'm a tough person. I mean, I can look after myself in a fight. But in this particular circumstances, I just did not know what this was, what was happening around me. As I continued to walk down the road, on the right, there was this flight of stairs that leads into the park and into the field. And as I got closer to these steps, now bear in mind, I'm on one end of the road. The steps are just across the road, only 10, 15 feet away from me. I continue walking, and the screams got so loud that it sounded as if they were that close. They were at the bottom of the steps, on the stairs. And I stopped for a moment, and I turned, and I'm a 16-year-old at the time, and I didn't know any better, but I'm looking, and I decided to cross the road. And as I got to the end of the steps, now, where I was, there was like a pavement or a sidewalk. If you're from America, there's a pavement, and then you got the beginning of the top of the steps. I stood at the edge of the pavement, and there was a part of me, this instinct kicked in where something was telling me, do not go down those stairs, go home straight away. And there was another part of me was thinking, I need to see this. But I got to the edge of the pavement, and I stopped, and I heard the screams again, and they were that loud, I could tell they were at the bottom of the steps. And I knew right there and then I did not want to know what is down those steps. I don't care what it is. I'm gone. I'm done. And I legged it. I ran. I sprinted. I never sprinted that fast, that quick in all my life. I felt like Usain Bolt, just running for my life, trying to get to my house. I remember just sweating. I was shaking. I was, the goosebumps were on the back. I just did not want to know. I didn't turn around to see if this, whatever this was, whether it was a person, whether it was a thing, an animal, I don't care. I had to run away. I kept running. I ran until literally I ran so fast. As soon as I got to the door, I was literally fumbling around with my keys, and I remember trying to stop myself, and I literally hit the door. I hit the door I ran so fast that I literally did not stop myself from going into my own front door. I'm fumbling around with the keys, and then literally I managed to unlock the front door, open it up, and quickly close the door. And I was sweating, I was panting. And now this is around about quarter to just about coming up to 3 in the morning. and my nan, my grandmother, was actually down in the kitchen. She got up and she was having a cigarette, and she couldn't go to sleep, and she was looking at me going, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And I couldn't figure out what just happened. So I just said to my nan, I'll explain it in the morning. I just can't think right now. I just can't think. And my nan thought I was drunk. I had a couple of drinks, and because I was out with friends, she was like, well, she didn't know what to make of it. So the following day, just as I was about to make my way out of the house, I tell my grandfather, my BAMP, about what happened last night. And he said to me that it could have been a fox. Now, like I said, the only thing that is probably habitable, any animal that could be roaming around in the area, especially my housing estate, would be foxes. And sometimes foxes let out this loud, high-pitched scream. But the way I explained it to him, I said, I don't think a fox would do that. And my BAMP said, well, they do, just look it up. So I looked up, and he said, let's listen to it. So we listened to this fox scream, or this fox call, whatever. And as soon as it happened, I said, that is not what I heard last night. That is not what I heard. That was not a fox call or fox cry or whatever. Maybe it was an owl. It could be any owl. And so we listened up, and we listened to it, and I said, it did not sound like an owl, it didn't sound like a fox, it didn't sound like, and I was basically trying to tick off anything that was any animals or any wildlife that was in Wales, especially in Barry. I'm ticking every box to say that wasn't what I heard, that wasn't what I heard. And my BAMP said to me, do you think someone was pulling a prank? And do you think it was a person? I said, BAMP, if it was a person, I would have seen him as I was walking. I would have seen him coming into that turning, where you could see the pathway and you could just literally see the park. And I said, there was no one there. There was no one at the bottom of the steps. There was no one on the swings. There was not even a group of them. There was no one there. And he just looked at me and he just said to me, well, I can't help you with that one. I said, neither can I. But I tried to give myself the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was someone who was probably in the field, because bearing in mind, in this field, there's like a little pocket area where maybe people were chilling out and they were coming their way, and maybe they were messing around. But, I heard around afterwards, and there was, from what I could tell from the neighbours now, and from friends, I said, oh, did you go anywhere? And no one said anything. I remember checking the local newspaper and asking around, was there any, assaults, because people tried to scream to help each other, and there was nothing. It was almost as if whatever it was, it had nothing to do with any human or any animal. It was almost as if it was paranormal. It was just something beyond reality. I don't know how to explain it. Whatever it was at the bottom of those steps, I was so glad, even to this day, I am so glad I did not go down those steps. Whatever is down there, I'm glad I just don't know. I'm glad that I do not know what it is, and I'm glad that on that night, I'm glad that my instinct kicked in and I just ran. But that'll do it, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you give a like, share, and subscribe to the channel on Deansy Boy Show. Make sure you notify yourself if you want to keep up with my latest videos. And in the meantime, I'll see you around, and make sure you keep yourself safe. Take care.